Mystery Us. I'm your host for Mystery Us, Tony Pratt, and today we have a very exciting guest and interesting gentleman. I first met him, we were both doing radio shows together on WRFN FM. Welcome to Mystery Us, Sean Sandman Barnes.
Thank you, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Sean, you call yourself Sandman, and throughout your radio show, actually, you had it on the internet also.
Yes.
And you used the moniker Sandman.
Sure. Yeah.
And you didn't reveal your identity until just recently.
Right.
Now, why the mystery?
Oh man. Well, it was the show that I was doing was, I guess you could say, a cheap spin-off of Coast to Coast AM, the famous Art Bell late night radio show.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of wanted to do something to basically set myself apart a little bit from the rest of the people who were doing similar shows,
mm-hmm.
and to kind of add a little bit of an air of mystery to the whole thing. And I just came up with that idea, and it kind of stuck, and it was like my alter ego. It kind of developed, it blew up, so to speak,
mm-hmm.
from that, and so I kind of got stuck with that moniker. So
now you've done a lot of ghost research.
Yeah.
And ghost exploration. You did a thing, was it up in Kentucky? Where was that place?
Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't sound like a fun place.
It all depends on what your idea of fun is, Tony.
Now, what did you find at the sanitarium?
Well, I first became interested in Waverly Hills when I saw a show. It was on the ABC Family Network, I believe, called America's or Scariest Places on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a show about Waverly Hills Sanatorium, and I saw something on there that just kind of fascinated me, and I became like obsessed. I have to go to this place, and I've actually been twice.
Right.
And it's an old tuberculosis sanatorium,
mm-hmm.
Back up in the hills of Kentucky.
Oh, it's
literally.
a sanatorium.
Yeah, it's a sanatorium, not sanitarium, not crazy people.
Right.
This was a tuberculosis hospital, and it's literally up in the hills of Kentucky. I mean, on a hill.
Right.
And they had lots of people die there. There's like thousands of people. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but thousands of people who died at this place.
So a lot of ghosts or living challenged individuals.
Yes, exactly. Very, very good term.
Could be around.
Yeah, it's actually known as one of the most haunted places in the world, and I believe it after being there. I've been there twice, like I said.
Right.
There's a lot of shadow people in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of what I call oppressive feelings in there.
Mm-hmm.
And supposedly, and I say supposedly because it depends on who you talk to and what version of the story you read, but there's supposedly one of the many ghosts that haunts there is a nurse who hung herself after she became pregnant out of wedlock by one of the doctors who worked at the sanitarium. And like I said, depending on the story, some of the stories say that she had the baby and the baby died, and some say she died in childbirth. The most popular story is that she hung herself. Another story is that the doctor killed her and flushed the baby down the sewage system there. I mean, there's several different stories, but the general consensus is in room 502, this nurse died there. And that's one of the most famous stories from that.
So did you go to room 502 and check it out? And
could not go there.
You couldn't?
I could not go there.
Oh, could not go there. So
that made a lot of sense, didn't it?
Did it? Yeah. Did you? Easy for you to say.
Exactly.
So, did you experience any kind of like cold spots or anything like that?
We didn't get a thing at 502.
Didn't get any readings.
Nothing. Actually, the first time that I went with a couple of women who are, I guess the best word to describe it would be sensitives. They're not psychic, but they can pick up on a lot of stuff. And they actually picked up on some things across the hall in a separate room where they were getting some contact with a female presence. Don't know exactly who it was. It could have been the supposed nurse, but we don't really know, obviously. But we didn't get anything except from 502. No. The most interesting thing we did get was, this is going to sound really weird, but hey, we did get some of the pictures that we took. There was an image of what appeared to be a skull that kind of followed us around throughout Waverly. I think we have a total of 3 or 4 pictures where you can make out an image of a skull.
Yeah, I saw that. It's weirder than a 3-headed cat. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, on your radio show, you've had a lot of different kind of guests. What are some of the more colorful or interesting ones that you had? I know you had a guy that was like a super spy type guy.
Yeah. I had a guy who claimed that he was part of the government Black Ops program, recruited as a child with the MK Ultra.
Right.
His name is Duncan O'Finnan. He's pretty popular on the internet. He's been on that conspiracy show with Jesse Ventura.
Right, yeah, I saw that.
I was actually one of the first national, or really worldwide, since my radio show was on the internet.
Right.
I was one of the first worldwide exposures that he got right before he got, I guess, if you could say really famous. I mean,
has he been on Coast to Coast? Or?
I do not know. I have lost contact with him. The last time that I talked to him was probably about 2.5 years ago.
Right.
And he was very concerned for his safety at this point in time.
Now his thing was he was like he just woke up one day and he had all these skills and he didn't know where they came from, and he was like
close. His I think it was he's Native American descent. I think it was his father had some psychic type abilities that was passed down to him, and he has no memory of being recruited. He claims he was recruited at the age of 5 and sent to this secret training facility where him and other children like him were taught how to use their abilities, and they were basically brainwashed, and they could be called up into action at the will of the government by. Back then, it was simply just a phone call with a secret word, and bam, it would activate him, and he would go do whatever it was he needed to do, and be gone for several days or weeks at a time, and come back home. And once he got home, mission over, big chunk of time lost, has no idea where he's been. The way he figured out all this was he was in a car accident, and I believe it was an MRI. He had to have an MRI. And that kind of
brought back some memories.
Triggered some stuff, and he slowly started remembering a lot of things, and has spent the last probably 10 or 15 years of his life reconstructing all of this and putting it all together. Very interesting individual.
Now your radio show's been on hiatus for a while, but you're starting a live stream channel.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Well, I retired from radio in December 2008 after 5 years of doing the radio show. It was called Parareality Radio.
Right.
Like I said, kind of like a knockoff of Coast to Coast AM.
Parareality.
Yes, Parareality Radio. And I'd always thought about evolving the show into something different, and we had talked some about doing some collaboration or me getting into TV or whatever, and you had mentioned some live stream.
Yeah, we kind of ran into each other. We kind of collaborated the first time we met. I mean, I was on the radio, and I mean, you were so gracious and nice to me because it was my first day. I'd been on the radio for years, but as far as at this particular station, I had a guest come in, and they had told me the wrong day to come in, and so it wasn't exactly my fault, but I was sitting there in your radio time slot.
Yep.
And you let me do my show, and that was really cool because I mean you didn't have to do that, and I had a guest that had driven a couple of hours to be there. Really, really, really cool. I mean most people wouldn't do it like that, but so that's how we met, and then
totally by accident. Yeah.
We've done a few things together. We were in a movie together, little 48-hour film production called Hush.
Hush. Yes.
And it won a couple of awards here and there, and actually the guy that directed it, Tom Delfino, he sent me an email recently and said it's won some other kind of award and some other. He keeps putting it in different festivals and.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's not. What's it? A 5-minute movie? Yeah, it's
7, I think is what
7 minutes.
I think is what it was.
About 7 minutes running time.
No longer than 7, no less than
right.
5.
It's not a, you know, epic or anything, but it's a cute little exercise in insanity that we.
It was a very interesting way to spend a day.
Yeah, one day.
One day for 5 or 7 minutes.
And really, the whole movie was in one take. I mean, as far as the part that I was in, it was just. We did it all in one take. So you got your live stream channel going, and you're going to actually do shows for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then
take a break.
Take a break for 3 months.
Right.
And then do some more shows.
Right. I kind of got talked by some people into doing this.
Right.
You being one of them.
Right.
And I just am going to see how it goes. It's pretty much like this show. It's a talk show, 30 minutes. And
I'm going to be a guest on your show.
Hopefully, yes, very soon. Yes.
Yeah. I've actually been a guest on Parareality radio show.
Yes.
1 or 2 times. Was it one time, or I don't know if I was on
at
there.
least once. I know I was a guest on your show once.
You
or
were
twice.
on my show.
Yeah.
So it seems like it just seems like we were, because we both did each other's show.
Around. Yeah.
Yeah. And we shared some guests and did some interviews with some of the same guests and stuff that were interesting. So now, do you have any plans for any upcoming paranormal explorations?
Not really. No.
Yeah.
I mainly research, I guess. I'm a very inquisitive type person, you know, and I'm always looking at doing something new, trying to learn something that I don't already know. So it's probably just mainly research that I'm going to be doing.
Now you basically do kind of I don't know if you do certification, but you do instruction on people who want to be ghost hunters.
Well, not really.
You did some seminars like that.
I've done a couple of talks, but no certification classes or anything like that. I actually had when my radio show was at the peak of its popularity, I had several people who wanted me to teach them, but nowhere near where we are here. You know, it's all across the country, and I had a lot of people interested in putting together like a class, like some sort of certification thing or a home study course or something of that nature. I thought about it for probably about that long, and after I realized, you know, it basically doesn't mean squat. Really, anybody, thanks to the World Wide Web, can get any kind of certification stuff together. So I didn't think it was going to hold as much weight as what I would have liked for it to.
And what kind of equipment do people use for ghost hunting?
You can use anything, basically.
Because I basically use nothing. I mean, I just go out there and somehow find this different phenomena.
Before I get into that, how I got into the whole ghost hunting thing was strictly, totally kind of by accident, because I wanted to do a radio show.
Sure.
And I didn't want it to be your typical radio show at that time that everyone else was doing it, because the internet was not brand new, but the ability to host your own show was new technology back then, and there were so many people who were doing shows, and it was all of this crank call crap.
Right, just kind of comedy or
just no
off the wall stuff.
Yeah, make no sense stuff. A lot of sports talk shows and everything.
Of course, a million music shows.
And I wanted to do something kind of different, and that's how I kind of got the whole idea to do the paranormal thing, because I had an experience, a personal experience when I was 9 or 10, and that kind of has led me on this lifelong quest to find out all I could about it.
Sure.
So I decided one day I was coming home from work, or one night I was coming home from work and was listening to Coast to Coast. I'm like, that's it. I think I'll do that. Yeah. And gosh, there are so many people that are already doing that, and so you had to if you want to be popular, you have to not only have a good show, but it has to be different.
Of course, at the time there weren't a lot of people doing it, but there are now.
Actually, at the time, there was a lot of people who were doing their own shows.
Really?
Now, they didn't last very long.
Sure.
Some people did it a couple of weeks, couple of months.
Yeah.
No one lasted very long, but there was actually more people into it than what I thought.
Right.
I did a little research, but now, oh my God, now there's 10 times as many people. Yeah, you're right. But so I kind of had to learn about this ghost hunting stuff as I went along, because I was not a ghost hunter, nor had I ever been ghost hunting. But I thought, if I'm going to have a show on stuff like this, maybe I need to know a little bit about what I'm talking about,
Sure.
So I found an organization called the International Ghost Hunter Society, and they had a certification class, and I went through it and became a certified ghost hunter and a certified paranormal investigator, and learned how to use some equipment and stuff. And to answer your question, which I beat around the bush to get to this, you can use something just as simple as a handheld tape recorder. It doesn't even have to be digital.
Sure.
And a 35 millimeter film camera, a disposable camera. That's really all you need. You can go low tech like that, or you can go all the way up to the high tech equipment that everyone's using today, like the digital recorders that you pay hundreds of dollars for, and the EMF detectors, and the K2 meter, and
now a lot of times when you take the photos, you don't really see anything, but it appears later. So do you just kind of take a bunch of photos in an area that's known to have some activity?
That's the idea.
And hope you hit something, or
hope you hit pay dirt. That's the idea. If you're gonna do something like,
it's kind of hard to catch a ghost, running down the street, and you're like, oh, there's one.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't appear on command either.
Right.
Despite what all these popular ghost hunting shows show you, they do not appear on command. You can't. It's not that easy, and you have to have a lot of patience if you're going to do something like that. You can take 1,000 photographs and may get one that has something in it.
Right.
So yeah, you're right. You just basically go to the area that's the hot spot, and you just start snapping some pictures.
So has that been your primary focus of research in the paranormal? Has been more the ghost hunting thing, or other areas as well?
To start out, it was. Because of my personal experience that I had as a child, that kind of steered me in that direction.
Now, what was the experience?
Well, I was either 9 or 10, somewhere right around that age range, and had bunk beds. And one night I was sleeping on the top bunk in my parents' house, and I just woke up in the middle of the night, and I heard. I know this sounds it may be hard to imagine, but you know what shag carpeting is like. It's the thick, and the sound that your bare feet makes when you're walking across shag carpeting has a little crunchy sound to it. And I heard this sound of footsteps on carpeting coming from my parents' room. And it was getting closer and closer to my room, and it just stopped at the threshold of my door, and something, I never saw what it was, but something made a big sigh and kind of a lip smacking thing, kind of like that, and then turned and walked down the hallway, and it scared the crap out of me. Had no idea what it was. We were the only people to ever live in this house. It wasn't like the house was 100 years old and someone died in it or anything like that.
Right.
It was a brand new house when my parents bought it. We were the only people to ever live in it. I don't know the history behind the land or anything like that. Could have just been something passing through. I don't know. But that's what kind of got me interested. Nothing ever manifested, and that was the only time in that house that anything like that ever happened. But it stuck with me.
Yeah, I kind of came through the UFO Bigfoot portal there, not by choice. I mean, the UFO thing was kind of
it just kind of happened to you.
Quirk. Yeah, you just kind of have these experiences, and then you pursue. My interest was more in the UFOs, but then Bigfoot popped up, and so had to do a little Bigfoot research.
I had, like I said, that kind of steered me towards I guess you would say, the ghost and spirit. I've done a lot. I really actually consider myself an expert on differentiating between ghost spirits and poltergeists, and there is a difference. And
What's the difference?
We could do a whole show on the differences.
But
the
short version?
The Reader's Digest condensed version is basically a ghost is nothing more than a spiritual or a psychic recording.
Right.
You do not interact with it.
It's like residual energy.
It's residual. You cannot interact with it. It's just repeating a process, and it can be recurred from some sort of emotional event, trauma, stuff like that. Spirits are actual spirits of an individual that you can interact with, that can interact with you, such as the EVP recordings and stuff of that situation.
So that's someone who's actually lived and died, and
exactly.
So they're still they can talk to you.
Exactly.
And so the EVP is electronic voice phenomena.
It's what you capture on your recorder.
Right, and you can just do this with any tape recorder.
Any tape recorder.
Or digital voice recorder or whatever. Just, turn it on and then see what you get.
Yep, there's two ways of doing it. The most popular way is the question and answer thing, where you ask a question and wait an appropriate amount of time for a response, and you just basically have a whole conversation. And of course, you're not going to hear what's being said to you until you play it back, and you may get something, and most of the time you don't. And another less popular method is to go into what would be considered a hot spot, like if, say, this room had a lot of ghost activity or paranormal activity, to coin a phrase. You would just take your recorder and sit it on the table and turn it on and walk out.
Right.
And see if anybody was talking that way.
Okay, now if people want to check out your live stream channel, what is the website for that?
Well, I've done a grand total of one show so far. Yeah. My next show's tomorrow night, by the way, 8 o'clock. Okay. They can go to www.livestream.com/Parareality.
And that'll get to your channel.
That is my channel, and it's a video on demand channel, and the shows will be played 24/7.
And we'll have that up on the screen so that our viewers can check it out. Do you have another website or other contact methodology that people, if they were interested?
Well, the website that I used to use for my radio show is still up. Don't update it or anything, but the official television show website is I just use Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah. Okay. So it's facebook.com/sandman.parareality, and you can get me on Facebook that way.
Okay, cool. We'll get that up on the screen as well.
And if there's anyone that wants to send me an email, it's prradio@50G.com. prradio@50G.com.
Cool. Okay, now in all your paranormal explorations, what's been the weirdest, strangest, most bizarre thing you've come across? Or even a guest, even somebody else. Yeah.
That one's a little bit easier to answer than an experience I've had.
Yeah.
I've really had some way far out there guests. Probably one of the strangest people that I've interviewed is a guy that he calls himself Nahu Lanham. He's from somewhere in Arizona. I think the Sedona, Phoenix area out in Arizona. And he wrote a book called UFOs, Gods from Inner Space. And his belief system is that basically kind of subscribes to a little bit to the ancient alien theories, except just a little bit even more way out there than that. Is basically that the gods are the aliens come from within us, and they are manifestations of what we either have been or will become, I believe is.
So they're like projections of our psyche, or?
Sort of, kind of. It's very, very difficult to explain. To tell you the truth,
interesting theory.
To tell you the truth, even when he was explaining it to me on the show, I really didn't get the whole entire gist of what he was saying.
Right. Of course, I asked you what the most bizarre, not what the most credible was.
Exactly.
What was the most credible, or very wow, there's no doubt about that. That's evidence. That's proof.
Hands down, 100%. A guy that's a psychic medium. His name's Rick Hayes.
Rick Hayes.
Yes.
Okay.
I had him on my show about 3 times. He and I became pretty good friends. Once again, I was one of the first people to bring him to a national stage. I'm not that I'm taking credit for any of his success, but he is what he terms himself is a paranormal communications consultant, psychic medium. The first time that we ever talked on the phone, he gave me just a wealth of information that there was no way he could have known,
right,
unless there was something to his talent, to his gift.
right.
I always, before I ever interviewed anybody, I would always call them on the phone and talk to them for at least 30 minutes to an hour, just to get to know each other.
Right.
You know, and I would usually do that a week, several days before, and he had just such a wealth of information. He had never even heard of me, you know, never heard of me at all.
Right.
And he had a lot of information about my dad, who had passed on and everything, and really impressed me. And so, hands down, he was probably, I would say, the most fascinating and to me, just like, wow, there's something to this.
Yeah, it's real. It's real.
Exactly.
I mean, you can't deny it because it's you, and it's information only you would know.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, and I've had those, and of course, there's a lot of people out there that are, you know, kind of the tarot card readers that, you know, they're just kind of going by the cards, or they're not really, but the really good ones, they seem to be able to tune in to. They're getting the knowledge from somewhere.
Somewhere. Yeah.
And you know, a lot of times I don't necessarily know that what they say is happening. The way that it's working.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, the information that comes back is valid and real, and therefore, however it's working, it's working.
Exactly. Somehow they're getting it.
Now, what are your plans for the future as far as your
just
paranormal media?
I'm just gonna try this TV show thing out for a little bit and see how it goes. And I've obligated myself to do what I call 2 seasons, which is 3 months on, 3 months off, 3 months on, and, you know, take a break and then see what happens from there. And if it's working out pretty good, I may expand it a little bit. It's nowhere near anything like this show. I mean, mine is a whole totally completely one-man operation with, you know, basically right now a webcam. So
yeah,
you know, so it's very, very, very low tech.
And your secret identity is that you are a nurse, right?
Yes, nurse and a paramedic.
You're a nurse and a paramedic. You were a paramedic before you were a nurse.
Yes, still am.
How long did you do that?
I have I'm coming up on 23 years in that. I'm older than I look, and I've been a nurse for 4.
But there's a thing that you do that most paramedics don't do. You actually do CPR for dogs and cats, right?
Yeah, I do. I do try to do some pet first aid classes. It's different. Let's just say that.
How do you do CPR on a cat without the cat like scratching your eyes out?
Well, if they were going to scratch your eyes out, you wouldn't be doing CPR on them.
I hear that. Well, I'll tell you, Sean, it's been a pleasure to have you on Mystery
Mystery
Us.
to be here.
And we thank you so much. And
love to come back sometime.
we'll have you back again soon.